Parent and school choice champion Kelley Williams-Bolar is here today to share with you her testimony of the atrocities she experienced as a mother being targeted by the teachers union. Kelley is highlighted in Rebecca Friedrich's book, Standing Up to Goliath, and has made guest appearances reliving her experience on various news stations and talk shows. Kelley has received awards for inspiration and strength as a champion for parental choice. We are so thankful to brave parents like Kelley who have literally put their lives on the line for their children. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kelley Williams-Bolar.
Good morning, and first I just want to say thank you so very much for having me come. I am so grateful and thankful. I like to go into what happened at the very beginning. I had just gotten a divorce, and I was just trying to make my way in life. I lived with my two daughters, and we lived in a city in Akron, and my parents lived in Copley, Fairlawn, which is a suburban area. And my father had suffered some medical issues, so he kind of was just at home. So he asked me, he said, would you, just bring the kids out here? Several times he asked me. And so one year, I was in school and I was working, subbing as a teacher assistant throughout the Akron district school system. So I said, okay. So this one year I decided to go ahead and enroll them. Their school was an awesome school. It was top notch. So they were there the first year, everything was fine. And then the second year, they hired an investigator to follow certain people around. And they followed me around for about 14 days. And they said that, I didn't live in a district, which I didn't. So we tried to get something called a grandparent power of attorney. Well, we were successful, we did get it. And the judge, she gave it to us and we presented that to the school. Well, we didn't know that they were fighting against it. So that June, the judge sent us a letter just saying, remove the kids. The school, they don't want your kids here, so just remove them. So I removed them. Time goes by, it's a whole year later, 18 months go by. I received an indictment. And at that time, I had never been in trouble before, so I didn't know what an indictment was. All I know is I got this postcard in the mail and it said Ohio versus Kelley Williams-Bolar, and I was like, what is this? So I called my father. He was like, come over here, let me see that. He knew more than I did. So I get over there, he looked at it, and I guess he kind of knew what was going on because the same day he told me, he said, go out and check my mailbox. So I did, and he actually had one as well. So that's when the process began. And so we went to court, and yeah, it was Copley Fairlawn City Schools. And I was like, didn't know what, I was so confused. I mean, we hadn't been there in like 18 months. So I wasn't for certain what was going on. So the process began, and they had a jury, and, I wanted to plead my case to tell, that we just wanted our kids. I wanted them safe, and I wanted them educated. The school that they had been at was a very rough school, and my home had been broken into. So it was two major factors that had me to decide to, have them out there at that school. But once it all happened, I had received 3 felonies, but one was tampering with documents, and the other one was grand theft, and the other one they dropped. So during the process, you don't realize how deep it can be, like how intense it can be during a trial. I had never even sat in a trial. And so to actually be a person that's trying to defend their life and trying to, I was just a mom. I was just going to school. I had just gotten a divorce. I wasn't trying to bring any harm to anyone. Definitely wasn't trying to separate two cities amongst each other. And at that time, it was very thick in the air, and that was not my purpose at all. And during the trial, they just showed everything, every little nook and cranny. There's something called the discovery box. And this discovery box went back into way before I was ever even born. This is what they brought into the courtroom. It was just documents after documents. It's like, so they were trying to find anything about my dad or myself. Luckily, my father had never really been in any trouble either. At this point, he was about 65 years old. So they found me guilty. I go to jail, 10 days, 5 years. If I had done anything wrong during the probation, my probation was 3 years. And so I went to jail. It was a 10-day sentencing, but I stayed there 9 of the 10 every day. Every day, I was just distraught and just crying, reading. I had received a Bible. It was a bookshelf that you can pick out whatever, so I had a Bible by my little bed. And I would read Psalms 91, 27, and 23. And actually, I read them every day. Even now, I definitely read those because they kept me so strong, because I just felt so small in this great big world. I mean, it was really tragic. And I know that sounds like, it's funny because my cousins who maybe veered off and maybe done some things, they knew I had 10 days, so they were like, suck it up, you'll be all right. I'm like, no, this is devastating. I've never been in trouble before, let alone now the whole world knows about it. So that was just beyond my imagination. So anyhow, so I stayed there for the 9 of the 10 days, and then I got released, and then, of course, my probation, where I had to go check in every month, that began for several years. Now, mind you, it was me and my father. I guess I was A and he was B. That's how it was presented in court. So the same scenario happened with my father. So he had to go to jail as well. But they charged him with grand theft and tampering with documents. But they had to drop both of those charges because he didn't enroll them, only I did. And that was his land, that was his home. He paid the taxes for that. So they had to drop the charges. So my father was saying we were being persecuted and prosecuted. And he was saying that he was sick. So when you get into the lion's mouth, they're not just going to open up and let you go. And a lot of people had started finding out about it. So they started doing more research on my father. And they was like, oh, okay, so, my father was 65. He had health issues. So they said, oh, you at a certain age, you were supposed to go from Social Security to disability. Or it might be vice versa, I don't know. I was too into my mind. I can't remember exactly how it went. But it was one or the other. At a certain age, he was supposed to go over to that. And he didn't do it. So they said, so now you stole $90,000 in health medical. So then they sent him to the penitentiary, where he's lying beside murderers and rapists. And my father had never done anything a day in his life. So he dies in jail. He never come home, a whole 100 miles away. And it was when you start getting sick and you're in a penitentiary, they have, like a penitentiary hospital. So, and then that was an issue because when I went to try to go see him, I was A and he was B. So it was like they thought we were some kind of Bonnie and Clyde. So I couldn't just see him. I couldn't just go see him. It was like they thought that, and if you don't know, like if you don't really know what's going on and the people there, they don't know. All they know if they see that I'm A and he's B, and so they don't know exactly what happened. So they think, we did something crazy. I'm like, no, it was just too much. It was so much pressure. So finally, by the time I was able to go see him the second time, and by the time I was able to go in and see him, my father was in the bed and he was shackled to the bed. And it's like, why is he shackled to the bed? Like he's hurting. And by this point, his whole body is deteriorating. He's on dialysis. He's had a stroke or several mini strokes actually. And he's just lying there shackled to a bed. And it's like this man didn't want anything but for his kids and his grandchildren to be safe. So I say all that just to say, that 3 minutes, okay, sorry, I gotta make this quick. So, real quick. So there was a point where the school has stated there was 47, I was the 48th, it was 47 other parents that had done the same thing, and they removed their kids. And I'm like, well, so did we, because as soon as the prosecutor said to remove them, we did. So what made it different that they came to us 18 months later, that, mind you, 18 months later, that means they had not been in that school in 18 months. And then all of a sudden we get this indictment, because so many parents are telling me, well, why didn't you just remove them? We did. When the judge said, they don't want your grandparent power of attorney, just remove the kids. It's a little too late. So we did. And then we still end up getting an indictment. And it was just devastating. So I just try to tell people my story, and I try to make people understand that when you go through these trials and tribulations, many times it's to help other people in whatever situations that they are having in their life. Everything that I did, was it all right? No, I made a mistake, and I never should have enrolled my daughters out there. Here I am thinking I was protecting them, caused more problems than I would have ever imagined. Losing my father, John Kasich had to get involved immediately. He had to reduce my felonies to misdemeanors and make statements like, you can't send every parent to jail for district jumping. So it's so much information, and I know I would never have enough time to tell it all right now. But I do appreciate everyone's time, and I do thank you.
Thank you. There is nothing in this world more precious than a child. We treasure the immeasurable value and undeserved gift of children. God calls on all of us to protect the minds of our children from those who regard them as commodities. Marxist indoctrination, sex trafficking, and the enticement of the pop culture industry are crimes being committed against our children even as we speak. And that's why we are here. Would you join us in an effort to rescue them? Text the word rescuing to 50155 to donate any amount. Thank you.